Hello, everyone. And there's this guy named Elon Musk, and he, for some reason, thought he knew better how to deal with the LA fires than a fire command team. And this is apparently a real thing posted by Gavin Newsom. I don't know. Weird.
Water availability. I understand that was like not an issue in Malibu. Is that correct?
Was it water?
Well, yeah.
So there was water. We have several reservoirs that encinos that we use a lot. Now, just an example, if we have one building burning,
Mhm.
we could flow 1,000 gallons a minute on that one building with the hose lays that we put in
Yeah.
to stop it. You can imagine 1,000 gallons per house we couldn't do, right? So the amount of water we're flowing, there really is no water system that's going to keep that pace. So we have to bring in water tenders.
My understanding is that like along the maybe correct me if I'm wrong. Along in Malibu along the coast, there was no shortage of water. In the Palisades, there was a shortage of water at a certain point. Or is that not accurate?
Well, we were flowing just an amount of water that the system couldn't overbear. That we're just
Okay.
overbearing, just because of how much water these firefighters were utilizing.
Okay. All right. Water available.
I do really enjoy that the firefighter answers his question and he just asks the question again, and the firefighter commander is just like it just repeats the answer more slowly. It does my soul good. Just it's very obvious how dumb these people are. I've been laughing at everyone bodying him at Path of Exile too. Yeah, he hasn't been doing so hot recently. But you know what also hasn't been doing hot? The surrounding areas of the LA fires, price gouging people who are suddenly displaced. And it really is disgusting. Here's some reporting from LAist. Asking rents skyrocket as LA fires destroy homes. And it really is something here. Rental housing prices in LA are spiking as historic fires burn in Southern California. LAist spotted one Zillow listing for a furnished home in Bel Air that was posted Saturday morning at $29,500 per month, a nearly 86% price hike from September of 2024, according to the listing's price history, which shows the home previously listed at $15,900 per month, which I do have to say, if you're in the market for housing like that, I do think you could probably still find housing. If you're open to if you're open to $15,000 a month, I think you could maybe downsize a little bit. Let's see here. California has laws against post-disaster price gouging. Gavin Newsom declared a state of emergency in connection with the Palisades fire, which has already destroyed an estimated 5,000 structures in upscale neighborhoods near LA's coastline. And basically, the declaration makes it so that landlords cannot raise their rent by more than 10%, which still seems like you gave a concession to the worst people. Why 10%? Fuck you. Make it 1%. They're already making a profit off of what they were charging previously. Let's see. Here's a few more. The New York Times reviewed Zillow listings on LA's west side, found asking rents between 15 and 64% rising since Tuesday. One agent reportedly lowered the asking rent on a property in Encino from $11,500 per month to $9,800 after a journalist with the LA Times asked why the asking price had risen nearly 28% in recent days. Yeah. Sorry, cannot talk right now. I also have a listing on blank for rent for $15,000. We were just offered $25,000. Supply and demand. You know, it really did bring out like some of the worst in people. Like when you know, it's frustrating to me because I can't even imagine having like $11,000 to spend on rent under normal circumstances. But also, like, it's pretty shitty that these landlords are like doubling their prices because people have lost everything they have. You know, that sucks. That sucks regardless of your position. These landlords, by the way, are the actual looters. Exactly, Charlie. Exactly. God. You know, they always the news, conservatives, people like Asmongold, will focus on like, oh my gosh, a bunch of people broke a window on a store and are taking product from the store. It's anarchy out there, but they never ever ever do like a 5-hour long stream about how landlords are jacking up rent by 300% for people who've lost everything. You know? God. In silico, there are different articles reporting on it. I also read one with more realistic prices, but you know, a lot of these outlets want to run with stories about like, you know, the fancy homes. But right-wing populists fundamentally agree with the left. Yeah. Yeah, like you're not supposed to be able to legally do it, but also desperate people don't necessarily know that it's illegal to fuck them over like that. Also, when it comes to the fires, guys, please be aware of like I don't know, these political times are breaking some people on the left. You know, there's this woman named Naomi Wolf who's, you know, presumably a doctor. She used to be a leftist and now she's gone completely wacko, okay? There's no other way of saying it really. She's gone cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And what do I mean by that? I mean that she's literally on Twitter posting about how the LA fires are actually an invasion by Canada and the Mexico. She thinks that we are being invaded by Canada and or Mexico. Or she thinks that the fires ramp up adrenaline. Per Dr. McCullough, adrenaline surges cause the cardiac arrests we see in the formerly healthy vaccinated, including young people. Is the fire also a narrative getting rid of the evidence of former damage to healthy humans? Cool. Is it war? Is it a conspiracy? Are your friends in LA not reacting to danger in an expected way? Are they almost in a trance? Multiple confirmations independently that suggest that this is the case, including from a therapist who says her patients are not reacting normally. Could a mood stabilizer of some kind be in what was sprayed? Or do weather manipulation waves entrain human thought patterns in some way? We are there in history and must ask the questions. And honestly, no, you don't. You don't have to ask those questions. You don't. You did not have to. You did not have to do that. Actually, you don't have to ask those questions because saying, "Could this possibly be weather manipulation with waves?" is not a question that is worth asking. Or this looks like some sort of bomb or attack, not a wildfire. That was all in 24 hours, chat. In the space of one Twitter day, this woman claimed that LA was being bombed, that Mexico and or Canada had invaded, that it was a cover for some sort of adrenaline harvesting operation, and that also it could be that they're spraying mood stabilizers to pacify the population. And I just have to say, this is the conspiracy singularity. This is what I talk about. This is what it means. Like, this is what happens when people embrace these far-right conspiracies, this new age woo nonsense. It leaves them uniquely susceptible to being manipulated into essentially this black hole from which they cannot escape. You know? Oh yeah, I'm not clicking on her website, Gammergy. I don't trust that with the 6-foot pole. Just gone, baby. Also, this appearance on CNN by Jasmine Crockett is 10 out of 10. This is the whole thing, though. I think we can just watch maybe the first 5 minutes of this.
Recall a news story from last year. There was some interest in the fire departments and the firefighters in California, and the interest was that there were too many white men who were firefighters, and we need to have a program in California to make sure we don't have enough white men as firefighters. So we have DEI.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry. When someone says something like that, they need to be immediately kicked off the show. You know, like, he's alleging that there's a program in California to remove white firefighters, and is implying essentially that because there were too many black firefighters, these fires happened.
And yet, I'm wondering now, if your house is burning down, how much do you care what color the firefighters are?
You can respond, and then
Listen, I am so tired. You know what? There was an article that just came out that said that actually the most educated demographic in this country right now is black women. So let me be clear. Because you are a woman, or because I know that some of the right has been sharing these photos of the fact that I believe that the fire chief may be a woman or something, that has nothing to do with it. We are looking at qualifications. What diversity, equity, and inclusion has always been about is saying, you know what? Open this up. Don't just look at the white men. Open it up and recognize that other people can be qualified. And the fact that we want to, at a time when people are dying, decide that a country of immigrants is failing, or people are dying because the same very people that built this country, because the last time I checked, y'all didn't say that anything was wrong with the White House, and I can promise you it was my ancestors that built the White House. So listen, if we have been good enough to build this country, we are good enough to serve and die overseas, we are good enough to serve in other ways. And the fact that people
God damn, she's good. She's just got these pistols. Pow pow.
actually decide that they want to engage in public service, whether it's sitting in Congress or whether it's serving on the fire department or the police department, should not be an issue. The fact is, stop trying to act as if only white men are the ones that are capable. Because right now, you're sitting at a table with 3 very capable black women.
I'm not. I'm just simply saying that as a matter of public policy in California, the main interest in the fire department lately has been in DEI programming and budget cuts, and now we have this massive fire.
I mean, DEI is just the new CRT. You know, everything was. Notice how none of them are talking about CRT anymore. They're not talking about critical race theory. It's because DEI just effectively means the same thing. Except now they can also use it as a slur against women. You know, like non-black and brown women. Like it's just a more encompassing slur.
Really, but Scott, are we really blaming the fire department? The people in the LA fire department.
No, I'm blaming the
right?
Democrats who run the state.
No. But the fire department right now, they are dealing with a historic fire. Okay,
and they have terrible leadership.
That is caused by climate, by the fact that it is extremely dry in the state of California, and they are fighting it in tropical force winds in that state. So how is it anything to do with DEI? How is it anything to do with the fire department at all? They are doing their very best as far as I know.
The fire department is not doing a good job. No. What, is it the water that's the problem? It's the fire department is the problem? Is it a $17 million budget cut to an $800?
Or is it, you know, climate change? The climate change we've done precious little to avert?
$100 million budget. I don't think that those are the issues that have caused this horrendous fire, the wildfires that are in California at this time. Well, and to bring DEI into this so early, I mean, how long have we been talking and you already came in with the DEI?
Just literally immediately.
Oh my God! You didn't even give us.
I mean, if I were you, I wouldn't want. If I were trying to defend California Democrats, I wouldn't want to hear me talk about it either. But the fact is, this has been mismanaged from a public policy perspective from top to bottom.
I don't think this is about California Democrats, but I do think, to the Congresswoman's point, it's very telling that whenever you're talking about a woman, the fire chief being a woman or the mayor being a woman, it's always DEI. Why does DEI not ever come into play when you're talking about a white man?
No. Let's be clear though. It's not. It's wonderful that the fire chief is a woman. I don't think if she is capable.
I didn't bring that up.
Yeah.
Man, these
Black
two
or
white
female
Republicans.
firefighters show up to save this dude's house and he cries DEI. What a whiny baby.
The two white guys on this panel are conservative, and like they are the most stereotypical white conservative dudes I've ever seen in my life. And I guarantee you at least one of them is in a trans girl's DMs like right now. Okay, I guarantee you.
Yeah, if she.
Also, Charlie, thank you for becoming a member and being a member for the last 14 months. I appreciate you.
She is capable. I don't care what gender she is. I don't care who she loves. I don't care what pigment her skin is. If she's willing to go save somebody's life in somebody's house, good on her. The reason Scott brought up diversity is that just like your budget tells people what your priorities are, what you talk about in your bio, what you talk about on your website, what you emphasize in recruitment helps people understand what are your priorities in the organization.
They are putting their...
Let me get this straight. You think that people don't have it straight what the priority of the fire department is? I always felt like that was pretty self-explanatory, honestly. I feel like the fire department is the department that deals with fire. That is the entirety of the thing. If you're bringing up anything else, well, I think you got an axe to grind here. And honestly, he's probably just a little bit upset that his tie is just a bit more orange than the other guy's tie. You fucked up, man. You were supposed to wear a red one, and instead you wore this orange dotted monstrosity.
Lives on the line.
And they're incredible.
As we speak.
And they're incredible.
Okay?
And they should welcome
the political leaders aren't. The firefighters are.
I'm talking about the firefighters, okay?
True,
the ones who are recruited, the black ones, the brown ones, the women, they are all there on the line. A kind of business note here, Congressman. President Trump has raised the issue of FEMA not having enough money, et cetera. This is your territory. Is the Congress going to fully fund what California needs in order to handle these fires, to recover from them if it's needed?
Absolutely, we should. This, of course, is a town that constantly disappoints people, but shame on all of us if we don't acknowledge that these disasters hit every...
This is a place that we hate with all of our hearts, but shame on us if we don't throw a few dollars on the ground for them to fight over while we poke them with sticks.
State, and this is a really big one. People need to expect that their state, local, and federal government are going to be there, and we need to be.
I think that members always end up coming together when it comes to these disasters and doing the right thing by the people that are there. What really becomes the glue that puts it all together is the actual execution of the resources. And that's something that I think members of Congress need to do a much better job about, is making sure that the money gets on the ground to the people who need it the most in the manner and in the speed at which
And just in December, we did together, Republicans and Democrats, refill much of that disaster fund.
Republicans did not want to do that. They voted to defund disaster relief.
This is going to take a lot of money out of that.
So we are in, it's January 8th. President Trump is going to be inaugurated in just a few days.
About to say.
The incoming president, I hate to say it, but he has a history of threatening to not fund fire relief, specifically to California.
What did they do to Puerto Rico? I mean, we spent historic amounts of money on Puerto Rico.
Let me.
What did Puerto Ricans want? Statehood? Independence? Fuck them. We gave them a lot of money. Those ungrateful swine.
Let me just play what President Trump said. This was just in October about actually fires in California.
We're going to take care of our farmers. We're going to take care of your water situation, and we'll force it down his throat. And we'll say,
just as an FYI, I just Googled Trump Puerto Rico. Trump/Puerto Rico's Medicaid money as part of budget deal. But we gave them money when a hurricane blew down homes.
Gavin, if you don't do it, we're not giving you any of that fire money that we send you all the time for all the forest fires that you have.
Yeah, the only thing that I would say is that.
Oh, also, you know, just another thing that comes up when you Google Donald Trump in Puerto Rico. We gave them money, though.
I would feel more comfortable if we decided to send additional resources to FEMA now, before he is sworn into office. So my charge to the newly elected Speaker of the House is, let's get a bill on the floor. Let's come together, just like we came together when it dealt with Georgia and North Carolina and Florida. And let's make sure that California has the resources without delay, and make sure that there is no planned politics, because if you trust what he says, he has already made it clear that he likes to pick and choose who it is that he wants to support. And while the Congress may come together, I don't know what he's going to do with the veto pen. So I think that we should get it done while we still have a President Joe Biden.
Look, the Congress and the president, whether they do it now or 2 weeks from now, is going to obviously fund this and take care of this, and they need to. It's important. However, I do think this. Policy changes should come along with this relief money here, with whatever it takes to rebuild and to fix.
What he's saying is that Republicans need to coerce California into adopting conservative changes to the state. Which, you know, it's strange how the states' rights types really sing a different tune sometimes. Isn't it strange how the states' rights folks suddenly don't support states' rights anymore when it comes to issues like this?
We have to look at the root causes, whatever forest management problems there are, whatever water problems there are, whatever issues happen in the local governance. Rebuilding here is a good thing, and everybody should support it, but we ought to, as taxpayers, expect necessary policy changes at the federal, state, and local levels so that it doesn't happen again.
Does that include climate change and addressing that?
Clearly, we need to be good stewards of the environment. And America, I think, has a better track record on this front than most people give us credit for. The reality is, in the last few years, we've reduced our carbon footprint by more than the next 15 carbon-reducing countries combined. I would say this. Clearly, President Trump speaks from the stump in a very...
And yet, we need to do better. Isn't that crazy? Isn't it crazy how, like, you can toot your horn about that, but at the same time, we have to do better because the planet is fucking dying.
Very different way than I do.
Like, even if it were true, we would still have to do better.
It said that you campaign in poetry and you govern in prose. We actually know how this guy is going to govern. He was president for 4 years. He didn't cut off funding. He didn't look at people whose homes were burned down and say, forget about it. You had a Biden sign in your yard, so we're just going to pass on by your home. Those things.
Wait, he's literally campaigned on that. You know, this is the thing. This is why I don't pay too much attention to what Donald Trump says anymore. Because, like, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Even people in his own party don't think it matters. Like, it doesn't matter if every single speech Donald Trump has given for the past year has included in some form a promise of retribution against his political enemies. It doesn't matter. Because they're just going to say, well, he didn't mean it. He didn't mean it, though. He doesn't mean what he says. It's just a funny joke. You don't understand his very provocative sense of humor. It's just a jokey joke. And then once it actually does happen, they're like, we were serious the entire time. We just outplayed you with 6D chess. You know, but until then, it's his birthday. He's just a little guy. Until he's secretly the genius who's been plotting this entire time. You know, it's funny how that works, right? You know, you guys have heard of, like, the Madonna and the horror complex. I think we need to name it something. I think we need to give this phenomenon a name like that. Like the it's not Schrodinger's racist joke. We need to call it, like, the idiot or the savant. You know, the idiot savant complex. There we go. Nailed it. Nailed it.
Things did happen in the last administration, probably in a narrow way. But I got to tell you, Donald Trump will be there to help out people in California. He was there 4 years ago. He'll be there now.
I'm just going to read one quote. We have several of them from his time in office, but just one as it relates to this. This is Kevin Carroll, a former Homeland Security official, told the New York Times and Politico and The Guardian, Trump absolutely didn't want to give aid to California or Puerto Rico purely for partisan politics. I hear what you're saying about the hurricanes, what happened in North Carolina and Florida. I do, though, think that there is a track record here of Trump, too, where his own aides, there are several others I didn't read, but his own aides say they had to convince him that there were votes there for him.
Well, I think
there are no votes in Puerto Rico.
I think what's going to be important is
Which
that
is why
we have...
they didn't.
But what did we do? I mean, people make this allegation about Puerto Rico, but it's like we funded it.
What is going to be important is when the Senate is confirming those cabinet members.
That's what I was...
It is kind of incredible how these Republicans will just come on these shows and lie over and over and over again. It's wild.
Speaking with them about what their policy ideas are and what they're going to do. Because when you're reading things like that, we recognize that it was the individuals who were there as experts, cabinet members, officials, who were able to convince the president to do certain things or convince him not to do other things. And we want to make sure that those great minds are still there for him to be able to provide that guidance and support so that when Congress does give bills, good people like Jesse and others who are working on these things, to be able to put it in front of him to get him to sign it and to do the right thing.
I think that that's really the big issue, is that he was surrounded by what I would consider to be actual experts, people that had actual resumes talking of diversity, equity, inclusion, and people just getting jobs and they're not qualified. I mean, when you look at the people that he has decided to nominate for these posts, we're talking about people that have never served a day in a lot of these various agencies that he's now like, oh, you should go ahead and head this agency. He has specifically decided that loyalist is who he wants around him. People that will not give him that honest kind of reflective moment and say, you know what, this isn't what we do. And that is my biggest concern about this. And listen,
I feel like despite himself, he's like nodding his head here in a way that I find like he's like acknowledging it, but I don't feel like he's intending to.
I wasn't here serving as that
like,
is my biggest
see what I mean?
Concern about this. And listen, I wasn't here serving as a member of Congress, so I can't say what he did and didn't do from an up close and personal perspective when he was in office before. But what I can say is what he threatens to do, along with the judgment that we've seen thus far going into this second administration. His judgment is way worse. I mean, looking at just the cabinet picks, obviously we still have other decisions that he's going to have to make, but I can tell you one thing for sure, is that California will not have to worry if we get this done before Trump is in office. And if we wait, then I don't know what's going to happen.
Okay, I got to say two
until the next fire.
Two things. First off, when it comes to rhetoric, I get it. In private moments, Donald Trump complains about Gavin Newsom. I'm guilty of that too. I don't think.
Wait, he doesn't do that. He does that publicly in speeches. What are you talking about?
The guy's a good governor. I think he's lousy. But you can't show me one single emergency disaster declaration that he rejected because he thought a governor was a bozo. He delivered for Puerto Rico. He delivered for every place that was hit by disaster. And I got to say this about the capacity of the nominees. The next Secretary of Homeland Security is going to be Kristi Noem. That's my governor. And the idea that she's not qualified to get this done is totally without evidentiary basis. I have seen her in moments of terrible tragedy be there for people 24 hours a day, holding them as they cry, helping them gather their things after a tornado.
Until he is back in the Oval Office, President-elect Trump hit Capitol Hill to strategize with Senate Republicans. Was Greenland or Panama on the menu?
God. Why are they never fact-checked to their faces? Because honestly, the people interviewing them don't necessarily know, all of these facts offhand either, like I don't necessarily know all these facts offhand. I'm fortunate to be able to Google things while I talk. Letterhack, thank you very much for the raid. Welcome, Raiders. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name's Riverboat Jack. I talk about the news and politics. I'm a socialist, card-carrying member of the DSA, and I think that people should democratically own their own workplaces. But
you've been watching.
We're doing our best over here. Welcome, 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 folks. Thank you very much for the raid.
Why does everyone forget he already threatened to pull aid from Cali and other blue states during the pandemic? He's already done the thing they're arguing about.
Yeah, because people just don't remember, Horizon. People just don't remember, and if they do question it, they don't bother to look it up, Like, one of his main things has been retribution against states he doesn't like and that he feels have wronged him. Also, we have been going for about an hour and a half, folks. If you've been enjoying the stream, hit the follow button on Twitch, hit the subscribe button on YouTube, like the YouTube stream. We are like 100 subscribers away from hitting 10K, and that is very exciting. How can people not remember it? It was 4 years ago. Because if it didn't affect them, they just kept living their lives. And most people don't pay attention to the news. So, like, if you didn't pay attention to the news, you didn't hear that story from, like, 3 years ago about how a probe came out and revealed that Trump had, in fact, delayed funding for disaster relief to Puerto Rico. And people just don't remember because they weren't affected by it and they weren't paying attention to news that day or whatever, like. Good night, Ashley. I think it's more deliberate. I don't think it's deliberate or deliberate malice on the part of people doing the news necessarily, you know?
I was originally worried about the GOP doing terrible stuff during this administration, but the Senate Dems released a video stating they'd be ready to stop.
Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. Appreciate it. Appreciate you. But also, it's a bit kind. How do I put it? One of the ways that these companies control what their broadcasters say and make sure that their broadcasters aren't going to be curious about that information is that they don't hire people, generally speaking, who are willing to put in the extra work and actually look up what the facts are. So instead, they come in, they get briefed on what they're going to talk about, and then, producers give them feedback as they're talking, and like that's kind of their job. Their job doesn't necessarily rely on them having an in-depth knowledge of what they're talking about, right? And so they hire people who are unlikely to rebel. They want good workers, they want good workers who are going to make them a profit, not necessarily truth tellers.